In the far reaches of space, where light from distant stars danced slowly across the void, a single Terran colony ship drifted peacefully. The sole horizon was a symbol of hope, carrying engineers, scientists, families, and fresh supplies to a new settlement on Kepler 9c, a habitable planet assigned to Earth by the Galactic Concord. The mission was peaceful, unarmed, civilian. It never reached its destination. Without warning, a Centauri warship emerged from slipspace. Its scanners lit up with an alert. Unregistered mass signature approaching controlled corridor. Orders were given with cold precision. No identification attempt. No contact. Just protocol. The sole horizon was erased from existence in under 12 seconds. The official report came in 2 days later. Minor incident. The Concord memo read. Primitive vessel entered restricted trade lane. Loss regrettable but non-critical. Earth received no apology. No reparation. Only a brief message from the Galactic Concord's diplomatic corps. We advise further caution when operating in shared corridors. Billions watched the news from Earth and its colonies. Their faces were a mix of shock, grief, and something else, something quiet and boiling. Anger. In orbit above Earth, on the shadow side of the moon, floated a ship that didn't officially exist. Hidden beneath a layer of stealth fields, the TSEF Vindicator observed everything in silence. Inside, Commander Jackson Morrow stood at the edge of the command bridge, eyes locked on the stars beyond the glass. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He simply read the report. Again and again. The crew watched him quietly. His reputation was known across the black. He was methodical, focused, and unshakable. A man who never reacted emotionally, but never forgot anything either. Behind him, Admiral Rowan's voice came through on the private channel. We've just been told to stand down. The Council wants to avoid provoking the Concord any further. Jackson's jaw tightened. He turned slowly. They destroyed a colony ship full of civilians. And we're supposed to let it go? Their response is diplomatic. Hollow, yes, but we're not ready for war. There was a pause. Then Jackson responded, voice calm as a cold steel blade. We won't start a war, Admiral, but we're done pretending we're harmless. He closed the channel. In the weeks that followed, Earth remained silent on the political stage. But beneath the surface, orders were given. Quiet mobilizations began. Special operations teams were recalled from deep training colonies. Engineers activated black site facilities hidden in asteroid belts. Weapons that had never been publicly acknowledged were powered on for the first time. All of it under the eyes of Commander Morrow. He walked the corridors of the Vindicator, reviewing ship schematics, testing new stealth protocols, and analyzing Concord fleet patterns. Every movement, every frequency, every flaw. Jackson met with Captain Reyes, one of his most trusted officers. They think we're slow, weak, blind, she said. That's good, Jackson replied. It means they'll never see what's coming. He paused beside a console showing the remains of the Sol horizon. We gave them peace. They gave us a warning. Now we respond, with silence. In the Centauri Dominion, High Admiral Vrolax Thoin sat on his floating throne, listening to reports of minor unrest on Earth. He laughed, a sharp, hissing sound. Let the primitives grieve. They'll forget in time. They always do. His advisors said nothing. One of them hesitated to speak. There are signs, High Admiral. Movement in the Terran black zones. Disappearances. Energy spikes. Noise, Vrolax growled. They are harmless. He turned off the display with a wave of his clawed hand. Far from the Centauri throne world, Earth watched. It listened. And it prepared. Not with roars. Not with fire. But with quiet hands tightening the grip on steel. In the silence of deep space, the war had already begun. The moon base known as Outpost Theta didn't exist on any official Terran map. Hidden beneath layers of lunar rock and electronic shielding, it served one purpose, preparing for the day Earth would no longer stay silent. Commander Jackson Morrow stood at the center of its main operations deck, eyes fixed on the large display showing the alien outpost codenamed Volta Station. The station was a minor Concord relay in the Trion sector, small, barely armed, and lightly staffed. But more importantly, it was vulnerable. And it sat at the edge of Centauri-controlled space. Behind Jackson, Captain Reyes entered, her boots silent against the metallic floor. Everything's in place, she said. Strike team is prepped. The Vindicator is cloaked and within range. Jackson didn't move. His eyes remained on the map. No casualties, he said firmly. We disable, we retreat. Nothing more. Understood. There was no joy in his tone. no hunger for vengeance. Jackson wasn't interested in sending a message soaked in blood. He wanted clarity, he wanted the galaxy to see. The Vindicator glided silently through space, invisible to the Concorde's sensors. Its hull shimmered with light-bending armor, its engines running on dampened ion drives. Not even passing debris registered its presence. Aboard, the strike team prepared. They were handpicked by Morrow himself, cyber specialists, infiltration experts, ex-Marines trained in void combat. They wore black armor without insignia, moved like ghosts, and spoke little. This wasn't war, it was precision. At 0300 Earth Standard Time, Jackson gave the order. Initiate. Within seconds, the Vindicator launched 3 stealth pods toward Volta Station. They latched onto the station's surface, cutting into it with silent drills. No alarms were triggered. Inside, Concorde technicians played cards in the mess hall. One of them reached for a drink, and the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. The strike team moved like a shadow. Power cores were disabled. Communications were severed. The AI core was wiped clean. Backup systems were left untouched on purpose. By the time Concorde security even realized something was wrong, their entire control grid had been hijacked. Automatic defenses were shut down, data records scrambled. Not a single shot fired. Jackson watched it unfold from the Vindicator's bridge. How long until they notice? 17 minutes from now, Reyes replied. We'll be gone in 8. Back on Earth, the news broke within hours. Unknown forces disable Concorde relay. No casualties. No claim of responsibility. Concorde officials scrambled to respond. A dozen races blamed each other. The Zentari were quick to deny any weakness. Volta Station experienced a technical malfunction, Admiral Vrolax declared. There is no evidence of sabotage, but not everyone believed it. Among the quieter members of the Concorde, like the Falari, the Uridan, and the Kethari, fear started to grow. This wasn't a pirate raid. It wasn't a protest. It was too clean, too exact. Someone had tested the armor of the galaxy, and they'd found a crack. In a hidden war room on Earth, Terran High Command reviewed the mission footage. Generals, admirals, and intelligence officers watched in silence. Then all eyes turned to Jackson. Why didn't you destroy the station? One asked. It would have sent a clearer message. We don't want fear, Jackson said simply. We want attention. He stepped forward, showing still images of the Concorde's reaction. This was a probe. They didn't see us, but they felt us. That's enough for now. There was a long pause. Finally, Admiral Rowan nodded. What's your next move? Jackson looked back at the star map. They still think we're harmless, he said. Let's give them another reason to reconsider. Meanwhile, in the dark corridors of Concorde Command, Vrolax paced. For the first time in decades, uncertainty crept into his thoughts. Begin fleet scans, he snapped at his officers. Review sensor data. I want to know who touched that station. And if it was Earth, sir, someone dared to ask. Vrolax turned slowly, his eyes glowing like molten glass. Then they've overstepped, and they will be corrected. But in the back of his mind, something stirred, a whisper of doubt. What if this wasn't Earth reaching too far? What if it had always been watching, waiting, preparing? On the Vindicator, Jackson stood alone in his quarters. The stars outside the window shimmered quietly. His reflection stared back at him, calm, controlled. He didn't want war. But he would never allow Earth to be mocked again. Not after the Sol Horizon. Not ever. The galaxy hadn't yet spoken the name Earth with fear. But they had started whispering it. Volta Station was still being rebuilt. Investigations were underway, excuses were crafted, and reports were buried deep in Concorde archives. Yet even with their efforts, the incident could not be erased from the minds of those paying attention. Something had happened. Something deliberate. And someone had done it cleanly. Not every species ignored the signs. On the neutral world of Kelvaris, where diplomats from dozens of races gathered under peace banners, rumors moved faster than ships. The Falari emissary, known for his soft-spoken warnings, had already submitted a private report. Human technology is progressing beyond estimation. The Concorde dismissed it, as always. But they wouldn't for much longer. Commander Jackson Morrow stood inside the TSEF Vindicator's command chamber, surrounded by holographic projections of galactic fleet deployments. Lines of movement, fuel routes, patrol rotations. He watched them like a hunter studying the habits of a distant predator. The galaxy was big, but it was predictable. Captain Reyes entered, holding a secure data pad. New intel from Orbitus 9, she said. Concorde's military shipments are increasing. 3 more Zentari cruisers dispatched to the outer loop. Jackson nodded slightly. They're bracing, he said. But not for war. Just for embarrassment. Reyes hesitated. And if they figure out it was us? Then they'll either talk or overreact. He paused, then stepped closer to the star map. Either way, it's time. Across Earth's secret network of black sites and off-record facilities, Operation Ashlight was moving from concept to execution. It had taken years to build the fleet, ships that didn't exist in any Concord database. Vessels made of Terran alloys and stolen alien tech, designed to move without being seen, strike without being traced. Jackson reviewed every detail personally. 3 target systems were selected: Dinvar 6, Talix Beta, and Irexis Outpost. All were lightly defended. All were part of Concord's supply web. And all had been involved, directly or indirectly, in dismissing Earth's calls for justice after the Sol Horizon massacre. They would not be destroyed. They would be humbled. At a war council deep beneath Earth's surface, tensions began to rise. Some leaders pushed for total war. "We strike now, with everything," said General Voss. "We catch them off guard. Show them what humans really are." Others argued for caution. "This isn't about revenge," said Admiral Rowan. "It's about reputation. Long-term power." The room quieted as Jackson stepped forward. "If we burn everything, we'll become what they already assume we are, brutes with toys." He activated the display, showing surgical plans of targeted strikes. No mass destruction. No mass deaths. We take their pride. We remove their sense of control. They'll respect us more when we don't ask for it. Silence followed. Then agreement. The vote passed. Operation Ashlight was approved. Meanwhile, across the stars, High Admiral Vrolax Thurin addressed the Concord Assembly on Centauri Prime. Standing tall in ceremonial armor, he waved away warnings from lower council species. "Fear has made you soft," he said. "A single station goes dark, and you suspect the primitives from Earth? Let me remind you, we gave them access to the stars. They're our guests. They're nothing." The hall murmured in agreement, though some eyes turned away. The Falari emissary, quiet in the corner, whispered to his aide. "The most dangerous species is one that doesn't shout, but sharpens its blade in silence." Back on the Vindicator, the strike teams prepared. Jackson walked the rows of black-armored soldiers. Engineers double-checked drives. Pilots ran cold starts. The mission was days away. As he entered the strategy room, Captain Reyes followed. "You think they'll respond the way you expect?" she asked. "They won't know how to respond," he said. "They've forgotten what it's like to be surprised." He stopped and looked at a projected image of the Sol Horizon. Still, quiet. Its name was carved into the operations wall beside the Earth flag. "They made a mistake," he said softly. "Now we make one correction." The Concorde still thought of Earth as a background player. Useful in trade. Eager for approval. Politically naive. Technologically behind. They didn't see the new fleets. They didn't hear the silent movement of Terran operatives. They didn't feel the trap being laid around their most vulnerable corridors. But they would. Soon. Very soon. At 0400 hours Earth Standard Time, the stars above 3 different systems dimmed. It wasn't the sun or planets that changed. It was something else, something deliberate. Concorde satellites in Dinvar 6, Talix Beta, and Irexis Outpost stopped transmitting. Orbital sensors flickered, drone patrols vanished, and internal command lines went silent. And somewhere in the void, cloaked in darkness and strategy, Earth's shadow passed through. Operation Ashlight had begun. On the TSEF Vindicator, Commander Jackson Morrow stood in the war room, calm and alert. Holographic models of the 3 target systems rotated around him in perfect silence. Each red dot marked a Concorde base. Each line represented a flaw, an opening, a weakness, a forgotten blind spot. Across the room, Captain Reyes reported. "All strike teams are in position. 0 detection. Countdown is synchronized." Jackson nodded once. "Proceed." With that single word, Earth launched the most precise and coordinated offensive in its history. In Dinvar 6, the Concorde's fuel processing base blinked out of the grid. A Terran stealth ship slipped into low orbit, deployed signal jammers, and disabled orbital defenses without firing a single shot. Within 20 minutes, the processing core was hacked and shut down. Every drop of fuel in the system was unusable. In Talix Beta, Concorde's data storage center came under digital siege. Earth's cyber team infiltrated the core systems using coded backdoors planted years ago during peaceful tech exchanges. The entire network collapsed in minutes. Over 4,000 years of interstellar communication data was scrambled beyond recovery. And in Irexis Outpost, Earth's Ghost Squad struck the weapons testing platform. Security drones were shut down mid-flight. Control systems were hijacked. The Concorde's newest experimental weapons, plasma destabilizers, railgun prototypes, were quietly disassembled and taken. No explosions. No casualties. Only silence. Only loss. By the time Concorde realized something had happened, it was already over. Admiral Vrolax Thorin was in session with other Concorde leaders when the emergency reports came in. His personal aide ran into the chamber, face pale. 3 systems down. Communications lost. No confirmed attackers, just system failures or sabotage. Vrolax slammed his clawed fist onto the console. This is Earth's doing. Some council members exchanged nervous glances. You don't know that, one of the Uridan delegates said. Who else is reason? Vrolax snapped. Who else wants attention that badly? The Falari ambassador, quiet as always, finally spoke. Or perhaps, they no longer want attention. Only correction. Back on Earth, celebrations were muted. No parades. No public broadcasts. No claims of victory. This wasn't about making the galaxy cheer for Earth. This was about showing them what Earth could do when pushed too far. In the black briefing chamber of the Vindicator, strike team leaders debriefed quietly. Casualties were 0. Systems confirmed disabled. No evidence left behind. Jackson stood before the central display screen, watching a Concorde news feed. Unexplained disruptions reported in multiple systems. Galactic Concorde assures citizens that investigations are underway. He didn't smile. They still don't believe it was us, Reyes said. They will, Jackson replied. Soon. 2 days later, a message was transmitted from Earth's Central Diplomatic Office to the Concorde High Council. It contained no threats, no anger, no demands, only one line. The next time you decide we're harmless, remember this silence. Inside the Zentari war chambers, Vrolax read the message 3 times. He ordered every ship in the outer loop to red alert. Fleets were mobilized. Patrols increased. Drone surveillance intensified across nearby sectors. But it didn't matter. They weren't preparing for an enemy they understood. They were preparing for a force they couldn't see. On the edge of the galaxy, aboard the Vindicator, Jackson reviewed the post-operation files. One window showed before and after satellite images of the 3 targeted systems. Another showed Concorde military movements. They were shifting, scrambling, panicking. He folded his arms and stood quietly. We struck without killing. We acted without boasting. And they've already started running, he said. What's next? Reyes asked. Jackson looked at the map, now glowing with red system clusters where Concorde forces gathered. We wait for them to overreact, he said. And then we end this. Operation Ashlight wasn't just a success. It was a warning. To every species that laughed. To every admiral that shrugged. To every council that voted non-critical. Humanity was no longer waiting to be accepted. It had arrived. And the galaxy had just seen what happened when the harmless species picked up a blade. The stars above Orbitus 9 shimmered like always, cold and beautiful. But beneath that peaceful sky, war was coming. High Admiral Vrolax Thorin had finally moved. After weeks of mounting pressure from Concorde members and repeated failures to identify the attackers, he mobilized his forces. 12 Zentari warships entered the sector, joined by patrol fleets from 3 allied species. The official reason was joint training operations. But everyone knew better. This was a show of force. A message. Whoever was behind the coordinated strikes on Denvar 6, Talix Beta, and Irex's outpost would be crushed. Vrolax sat in the command chamber of his flagship, the Obsidian Claw. Around him, alien officers monitored signals, ran system checks, and watched the void. All scans came back empty. The systems were quiet. Too quiet. A few light years away, hidden inside a radiation field near a dead star, the TSEF Vindicator floated like a ghost. Commander Jackson Morrow stood in front of his operations team, eyes calm, voice steady. The screen in front of them displayed the real-time position of every ship in Vrolax's fleet. Earth's long-range surveillance drones had mapped every movement. He came, Captain Reyes said, watching the display. Just like you said he would. He always would, Jackson replied. Pride moves faster than ships. He walked across the deck and tapped the command console. Initiate Phase 3. Phase 3 wasn't a full assault. Jackson didn't want Vrolax dead. He wanted him exposed, stripped of his arrogance, his command, and his place in the galaxy. Within minutes, Earth stealth ships began flooding the area with false signals. Old Zentari codes, Concorde distress beacons, phantom power readings, they scrambled Vrolax's sensors completely. Then came the real blow. A targeted EMP pulse disabled the engines of 3 Concorde cruisers in orbit around Orbitus 9. No warning, no damage, just silence. Floating vessels with no power. Panic spread through the fleet. Weapons malfunctioning. We've lost guidance. We're being jammed. We can't find the source. Vrolax stood in the middle of the chaos, barking orders. But the fear in his officer's eyes was growing. Then the voice came. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was calm. Steady. Broadcast across every open channel, it echoed through every ship. This is Commander Jackson Morrow of the United Terran Fleet. You entered our space. You pointed your weapons at us. And you forgot that silence does not mean weakness. The entire fleet froze. The name hit like a hammer. Terrans, one Zentari officer said in disbelief. How did they? Jackson's voice continued. We warned you. We showed restraint. But now, your fleets are blind. Your weapons are useless. And you're trapped. There were no explosions. No death. Just the slow, quiet collapse of control. In the Concorde High Council chamber, messages poured in. Fleet status, compromised. Vrolax, not responding. Orbitus 9, dark. A wave of fear passed through the council. The Falari emissary stood and addressed the room. You judged them harmless. And now, you cannot even find your admiral. Inside the obsidian claw, Vrolax stood alone. His command was falling apart. His officers couldn't respond. The enemy was everywhere and nowhere. He stared at the communication screen, still showing Jackson's face. What do you want? Vrolax demanded, his voice cracking. Jackson answered with just one sentence. To be seen. And then the screen went dark. By morning, the entire fleet had withdrawn. No one was killed. No battles were fought. But the Concorde lost something far more valuable than ships. They lost control. Vrolax was removed from command within the day, stripped of rank, his legacy erased. Earth had not started a war, but it had won something greater: recognition. In the hidden chambers of Terran High Command, the vote was unanimous. The Concorde had extended an invitation. Earth would take a seat on the High Council, not as a favor, not out of pity, but out of fear. Jackson stood at the edge of the war room, watching a new symbol added to the Galactic Alliance chart. A blue and white star with 3 rings, the mark of Earth. They know us now, Reyes said quietly. They know what happens, Jackson replied, when you call us harmless. That night, on the observation deck of the Vindicator, Jackson looked out over the stars. The galaxy was different now, not because of what Earth said, but because of what it did. The Galactic Concorde was never the same after Orbitus 9. It wasn't the loss of ships that changed the galaxy, it was the loss of certainty. The idea that Earth was beneath notice had been shattered, and not by war, but by silence, by skill, by precision. Humanity had done what no young species had ever done, forced the oldest, proudest civilizations in the galaxy to sit down, listen, and reconsider. In the capital city of Voluan Prime, the Grand Chamber of the Concorde High Council stood surrounded by banners of 100 worlds. For centuries, this was where the powerful ruled and the weak begged for favor. But now, a new banner was being raised. The banner of Earth. White and blue. 3 orbital rings around a central star. Clean, sharp, and simple. It joined the others in silence. Commander Jackson Morrow stood at the edge of the observation platform aboard the TSEF Vindicator, high above Earth's atmosphere. The planet glowed below him, oceans blue, land green, lights twinkling across cities that had once looked to the stars in hope. Now, the stars looked back, and Earth no longer hoped. It acted. Captain Reyes entered the deck quietly. It's official, she said. The council ratified our seat. Full membership. Voting rights. Military status. Jackson didn't answer right away. He simply watched Earth spin slowly beneath them. They didn't give us that seat, he said. We took it. Without a shot. Without a speech. Reyes nodded. She knew what he meant. They had earned their place not through diplomacy, but through demonstration. Through controlled power, not reckless force. What now? She asked. We hold it, Jackson said. But we don't become them. Across the galaxy, things began to shift. The Uridan Confederacy opened new trade channels with Earth, no longer seeing them as just another upstart species. The Falari sent cultural envoys and technology offers, quietly grateful for the balance Earth had restored. Even the Zentari, bruised and humiliated, ceased their arrogant patrols near Terran borders. Their new admiral issued a single line of policy: do not provoke the silence. Earth had not conquered planets, but it had taken territory in the minds of every leader, every fleet commander, and every system that once looked down on humanity. Inside Earth's Black Site Command Center, once secret, now legendary, Jackson met with Terran High Command for the final debrief. "We hold power now," one general said. "We could demand more. Expand." "And then what?" Jackson asked. "Burn worlds? Force peace at the end of a railgun." They fell silent. He stepped toward the central display, showing the galaxy spinning slowly in 3D. "We didn't rise to become tyrants," he said. "We rose because we refused to be dismissed. We demanded to be seen. Now that we are, we'll lead differently." As the Vindicator cruised past the orbit of Mars, heading into deep space for its next quiet patrol, Jackson walked the silent corridors. No cheering, no speeches, no celebration, just calm purpose. In one of the quiet rooms, he sat alone, staring at a wall-mounted photo of the Sol Horizon, the colony ship that had started it all. Families, children, scientists, all gone in an instant. They were the reason. Not revenge, not power. Recognition, respect, security. That was the mission. That would always be the mission. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, on a cold diplomatic station above the dead world of Keros, two alien captains watched Earth's flag being raised on a shared outpost. One of them, a seasoned trader from the Velaran species, sighed. "I remember when humans first asked us for access codes. They begged, pleaded." The other, a younger pilot from the Trackari, looked at him carefully. "And now?" The old trader shook his head. "Now? I keep my voice low when I speak their name, just in case they're listening." They both watched the Terran flag flutter slightly under the artificial gravity. On the bridge of the TSEF Vindicator, Jackson stood alone again. Captain Reyes approached, her voice quiet. "Another message from the Concord," she said. "They want Terran advisors for future peacekeeping efforts." Jackson looked out at the stars, eyes focused, steady. "We'll help," he said. "But on our terms. No more silence. No more pretending." She stepped closer. "What happens if they try to control us again?" He didn't look at her. "Then we remind them." The galaxy would move forward, but it would never forget. Earth had risen, not with fury, but with discipline. It had turned insult into strategy, loss into strength. And most of all, it had turned silence into power.